Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life, December 12th, episode 77 already. We're at 77.
Wow.
My name is Mark Coughlin. I'll be your host tonight. Our regular host, Russell Frost, is on assignment again. How does this guy get multiple assignments? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the case as we sit. So we will roll with it as we can. My co-host today is Mr. Tony Schaefer in Chicago. Tony, how are you today?
Hey everybody. Hey Mark, I'm doing pretty good. I got nothing. I really don't. Yeah, I could say that it's cold, but it's colder in Canada.
Yeah, so don't bother saying that.
Yeah, so it's always colder somewhere.
And our other panelist tonight is Mr. Patrick Connor, whose face is a little bit blurred by that awesome microphone that's coming down.
Yeah, there we go.
But how are you today, Patrick?
I'm good. I'm here as the drooling Tesla fanboy.
You've got that napkin ready to grab.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You just wipe the corners of your mouth.
Is there such a thing as like a knuckle dragging Tesla fan? I'm not really.
Yeah, there are zealot cult members.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll print you up some business cards.
Very good. Very good. Well, today we got a ton of news through the week, so let's get at it. The first story of the week that we picked upon, because of course there's many stories through the week. We don't get to touch on them all, but we grabbed ones that looked interesting to us. And the first tonight is the Shanghai mayor states that Gigafactory 3 will be ready to start assembling within 1 calendar year. Wow. He visited the site recently, just outside of Shanghai, and right now it's basically dirt that's being moved around, maybe some pilings that are going in, but there's no real structure at this point that we've been able to see. But after his meeting with representatives there, he made a comment to the media that he believes that assembly at the Tesla plant will start in under 1 year from now. So I thought that was quite ambitious, but then we have found out that this may not be obviously complete assembly of a car. There may be a number of parts shipped there and assembled as they build the plant. So as long as they get a structure in place and can house some materials and bolt cars together and get them rolling out, they will get by the tariffs, and of course that will allow them time to build the factory out so it could do a full build at some point.
I think I found it, Mark. Here in this picture,
a sprung structure.
we have the sprung structure, which is the factory. Or the assembly, and then because they caught so much gruff for parking, the rest of it
at other sites
is going to be parking for the employees.
Parking beyond belief at this new site. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
so
ludicrous.
I think, I think they're done. I think that's it.
They'll need those tractors because when it rains, they'll be pulling a lot of employees out of the mud, it looks like.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So I like the way that this was news this week. But if you listen to the show, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we started speculating about what's going to happen here. And we said they're going to be building cars by the end of 2019. And why? Because Tesla moves fast. And when you have the support of the Chinese government, they move fast and can clear red tape. And so that things are just going to happen. And it's not going to be 3 years to build a factory. They're going to get something up and running so they can assemble them there. And they're going to start cranking out cars as fast as they can because Tesla moves fast. And so does China. So it's cool that it looks like we were absolutely right. Just to pat ourselves on the back here.
Exactly. And it's always good to take a win while we can take a win, isn't it?
Right. It only took how many episodes?
How many episodes did they get wrong? Yeah, exactly. But today we're right, so that is a good sign. So it'll be interesting to see when the structure goes up. right now, there's been no photographs of any type of structure besides Tony's picture, but we believe that, believe that the other structure is going to look a little bit different than Tony's farming shot that we just. Yeah. But like they've mentioned, it looks like there's going to be an assembly happening on site, so they can start pushing cars out and eliminating a tariff that's currently assigned to Tesla cars that are shipped there already assembled.
So I do have one more thing here. Looking at this picture, you often hear stories when there's production or factory or something going in about that one landowner that just refuses to sell. And then you see this house over here in the corner with their little back garden and some other plots over here. Now, either they are going to make a lot of money on that real estate, or they're going to have the best commute in all of Shanghai.
Or the cartoon Bugs Bunny, where they would build all around the rabbit hole, and they would be in the middle, with no access to the street.
Right. Although one thing I did notice back here in the very back, is this looks like it's right next to, these look like shipping, like a shipping yard.
Yeah, well, Shanghai is certainly a port city, and it would be, I think it would be advantageous for them to build it near a port facility that batteries could be, or whatever parts could be floated in by barge or by ship, if they weren't time sensitive.
Yeah, so that's, wow, to be right there. Parts come in, cars go out, and right there's the port.
Yeah.
Tesla uses hundreds of suppliers. I mean, they don't make everything. I know they do a lot of vertical integration, but the turn signal stock and the headlights and other things they don't make.
Our next story tonight is about state of charge and a bit of a debate that's been going on. Earlier in the week, a fellow YouTuber like Tesla, Kim from Like Tesla, had put a video up that was covered by Inside EVs that talked a little bit about what was the proper state of charge if you were charging your Tesla nightly. What percentage should you put the battery at? They had been under the assumption with their new Model 3 that they were trying to keep somewhere between 50 and 70% at all times for a single charge overnight. And what they found is that when they tried to charge up after a month and a half or 2 months to full to go on a longer trip, they noticed that they lost about 50 miles of range in the computer guessing what would be in the battery after a full charge. They took the car on that run and did notice that they lost a little bit of range and were concerned about it. Went into the Tesla service center near them, and they were told that they were going to have to basically reset the battery computer in order to get it back to where it was reading it properly. And they were told that they should be charging the car to 90% on a regular basis when they were going to charge it. Bringing it up to a state of charge of 90%, the Tesla service center told them that would be the proper state of charge. And they were taken back by that because, of course, they were going by some I guess, information that they have read and seen previously with other Tesla models that came from Jeff Dawn, who is, of course, a Tesla battery expert, works out of the Halifax location in Dartmouth University. And his suggestion was 70% was the right way. So they put a tweet out to Elon, and of course Elon got involved and said 80%. So now we've got this all over the board as to 70, 80, 90%. Elon tweeted back a couple times on this issue and indicated that the car certainly could do 80 or 90, and really the difference is minimal. So he felt that somewhere between 80 and 90 would be fine. Also indicated that the car could go down to as little as 5% without having an issue. So this might be something new with the Model 3 battery compared to the S and X, where Mr. Don had made a suggestion, and this is kind of new news. It's interesting what it will be. I keep my car at 80%. Have been since I got it, but I thought I would throw it to Patrick and see what he has to say about this.
Yeah, this is interesting because the numbers are different than what we've seen in the past. And what Professor Dunn had said is what I understood about lithium chemistry. So to Elon to say that it should be or for the Tesla Service Center to be saying you have to go to 90% is definitely not what I had expected. It does make sense that if your battery management system, if the batteries are not balanced, which you do have to balance your packs periodically, and to do that, they recommended going to 100% and then driving it until it was down to 90, so you don't leave it at 100, but you do charge to 100 to allow it to balance. Now that makes sense. If your pack gets out of balance, you're going to lose range, and it's going to cause more stress on the cells that are lower when you do discharge the pack. So doing periodic battery balancing every 90 days or so is pretty common, and that makes sense to charge up to 100 every few months, and then don't leave it at 100. That causes wear and tear. So make sure you drive and get it down to at least 90%, or I don't know, you could turn on your HVAC really high and drain it however you want. I'm watching our Model 3 to see if we start losing any reported range, and if we do, then I'll try doing a balance. But we don't drive a lot of long distances, so I'm not charging it to 90% regardless of what they said. I'm keeping it down in the 70% range, and if I see this, then I'll worry about it. But until then, I'd rather save the wear and tear on the battery pack by keeping it in the range where I know it's not going to degrade the pack.
Right. Yes. So it's interesting that there is this wide range, and for people that don't know, that don't have a Model 3 or S and X, there is a in the charge area. There's a inside the picture of the pack when you are charging. There's a slider in there that allows you to slide what percentage of the pack you would like it to charge up to, and there is a notation that part of it, usually I would say somewhere between say 65 and 80% indicates normal daily use, and then after that it says I believe trip when you get into the 90 to 100% area. So they allow clients who own the cars to basically pick themselves, and obviously. The Tesla group had picked a 70%, which is what they were after, or they indicated sometimes as low as 50. I don't know why they would fluctuate, but it's somewhat of a mystery. I'm not sure what the proper would be. Obviously I've stayed at 80. Elon suggested 80 or 90, and the service center said 90. So I guess I'm going to throw it out to the audience. What are you doing? Have you seen any of this? What percentage do you charge up to? And leave the comments in the YouTube page. That would be great. We would love to see what people are experiencing out there, as well as what we've seen.
Yeah, so in the chat room right now, David has said a lot of people have been doing 70 in their Model 3s. He's back up to the 90% regime. And yeah, Derek's been doing 90 and 100 once in a while. David does 100 on long trips. So just, Aid Bruno, 85%, so yeah, it's
it's all over the board, isn't it? It's like personal choice. People are just picking something and going with it. So
right. Most other EVs don't give you that sort of option.
No.
Yeah,
not at all.
With the Bolt, you have the Hilltop Reserve, right? So that's your only real option. It's either full or nearly full. And the Leaf, in some years, they had an 80% setting that you could turn off or on, but then they got rid of that with the later years.
Yeah, so Tesla is really the only one that gives the customer the ability to do a sliding scale based on what they feel.
Right.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of 100% as well, knowing that I'm leaving as soon as the car gets up to that 100%. And actually, I'm going to be going on a large trip starting this Friday. We're going to drive in. I guess it's about 2,000 kilometers to Florida, family vacation. And we'll be leaving Friday, and that night, I will be charging up fully and timing it so that when we're ready to go, the car's at 100%, and we will attempt and see what that's like. We've done it a couple times on longer trips, and I get the full mileage out of it so far, charging at 80 typically, but you push it up to the 100, and I've gotten that mileage. Now, do you actually get the mileage? It's, we've got issues now, of course, that it's colder. The battery doesn't hold as much mileage in a cold weather situation. So I'm not going to really know if I get the full amount out of the battery. I can see the discharge. I can see how far I get. But unlike in summer conditions, when you pretty well know that the temperatures are constant, you know what the mileage you're going to get or not get. But this will be a bit of a change and a trial for me.
Yeah, make sure you preheat your cabin while you're charging up too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great tip to make sure that the cabin is using the electricity from the house to warm up that battery.
So one thing I want to make sure that we do before we leave this topic is in the article, they did put recommendations if you've been charging to 70%, 75%, and like the YouTuber, I forgot her name.
Tesla Kim.
Kim, yep.
Like Kim. If you suspect that there's been some range miscalculations, there are steps that they say you can take to get the car to recalculate its estimate. And so what they put here was charge 90% nightly, leave it plugged in after reaching 90%. The range should increase within several weeks. If that doesn't work, charge it to 100%. Which, leave it plugged in until the charging stops, and then drive down to under 10% and then repeat the 100%. Do that 2 to 3 times until the full recalibration occurs.
Yeah, so it'd be
just drive 300 miles or so, and then do that 2 or 3 times. So
if you have a big space, just tie the wheel so it's going in a circle, and just let the car go.
See,
go to bed, and when you wake up, it should be good.
Right.
I think that would work. Make sure the pivot point is loose and that the rope isn't winding around.
Yes.
I had one of these cars as a kid.
Couple words of wisdom. Yes. Yeah.
Heard. Not that I've experienced, but a friend once told me. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, if the first 2 don't work, I'm just calling Tesla service.
Yeah, that might be the wiser thing to do. Yes. Yeah, leave ropes out of it, really. Stay away from it. But our next story, which was a bit of a we knew it was coming. Elon Musk was interviewed by 60 Minutes, and the broadcast was shown on Sunday evening. And typical Elon style, he kind of stepped in a few things and was happy to comment on a few things that I don't know if he should have. It was interesting about his viewpoint on the Security Exchange Commission, which we kind of knew, but just to have him kind of repeat it on air was, I thought that he could have skipped over that one. Probably would have did better for him.
Right. Is there anything wrong with saying no comment?
yeah. Like I don't think he's got that in the vocabulary, Patrick. I think that's a problem. Right. That he just cannot stop. But I certainly was happy to see it. There were a number of things that were interesting when he talked about the pop-up structure, the tent at Fremont. He indicated that opponents said that they were not going to meet their 5,000 a week level that they had put upon themselves. And he said, you're absolutely correct. We were not going to meet it until we built the tent and another assembly line, which boosts our Model 3 output by almost 50%. So he was saying that really saved them. That allowed them to get to the goal they needed to get to in volume. So that was interesting to see. He talked a little bit about, again, the SEC. He talked a little bit about his tweets, why he's on Twitter. I believe the quote was, he said that some people express themselves through their hair. I do it through Twitter. So, and of course, he was aiming that at Leslie, the interviewer, when he said that. But again, another interesting part of it was when Leslie, the interviewer, was reading to him comments about what people say about Elon. Some indicating that Tesla would not survive without Elon, and others saying Tesla will not survive with him. So there was quite the variety of responses that she was reading to Elon, and he was taking them in stride.
Yeah, that could have been a debate between Russell and myself on this show.
Yes, it could have.
It's the very same, like, damn it, I love you and I hate you and I can't live with you and I can't live without you.
Yeah, all at the same time. So it's it was interesting to see. But I would certainly suggest, if you haven't done it already, go to the 60 Minutes website or their YouTube channel and watch the interview. I think it's about just under 10 minutes. So there were some interesting shots in the factory as they were looking at the assembly line during the interview as well. So well worth watching.
Yeah, I really wish they had more than 2 hours with him. I would like to see them release online the unedited full interview. Because there have been a lot of people saying that they chose, the less flattering bits of it to put on, because a lot of it was about the shenanigans that happened this year. And so, of course, they have to cover those. And then that's what made news. So that's also what's going to make the cut for the interview, instead of some of the one of the things that Elon did was talk about how this is an American success story, and why is it being so attacked. And I would have loved to have heard a whole lot more of that. But instead, they talk about, why do you smoke pot? And do you say Tesla or Tesla? And really? You've only got 10 minutes to put on air, and that's the most important one you have to... it's a personal pet peeve? Okay, but let's not put it on 60 Minutes. Come on.
Yeah, that was kind of a pointless waste of 30 seconds. It's certainly if they have that much film, obviously they're going to slant it in a way that they want to do it. I know that Elon had indicated that some of the quotes were taken a bit out of context, or maybe was cut off from the complete statement, and he retweeted a couple of those after the interview had happened, or after the interview was aired. So he was somewhat, I guess, a little bit upset with some of the quotes that were taken out of context, he believed.
Right. Yeah. And so in the old style of doing things, where you have it's only a few minutes in whatever show, great. That's the way. But in the modern world, where you also have the internet, just release the whole thing. And in fact, Elon should that should be part of the deal. Is if anybody's going to interview him, he brings his own crew. They film it also, and then they can release their cut of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That would probably work well if Elon had the group to do that over and over, depending on when it was being filmed. But having that second take certainly would clear up a lot of things.
Yeah. Hey, guys, Mark, I hate to leave you with a drooling fanboy, but I'm going to have to step out. Shout out to everyone in the chat, and I will see you all probably next week.
All right, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Right. See you guys later.
He's our chat room connection. Now,
yep, that's it. So chat room, you're on your own.
We're not going to have your show title now.
Be on your best behavior. Actually, you can still put a name in the chat room, and certainly we will review it after the show. But with Tony gone, we just can't review it at this time. But we would love to see your show titles as it goes along. So please don't stop, put them in. And also, if you're there and you haven't subscribed already, press that subscribe button in the YouTube channel, and that helps our numbers, and we would really appreciate that.
So show title option, Who Needs Tony? Where'd Tony go?
What's up with Tony? Yeah. Next, Tony was going to talk a little bit about the 60-minute interview as well, 60 Minutes. And he talked about being an irresponsible driver, because one of the parts of the segments was Elon was in the car with Leslie, the interviewer, and they were driving along, and he was showing the autopilot, how it was working. And there were a couple of exterior shots from the car, and we're not sure if he was in Mad Max mode or not, but there was, it looked like, and of course, maybe it's because of the camera angle, but it certainly looked like he cut in front of a car in the middle lane, or the autopilot did. And it was like, it was quite shocking. I was going, gee, I would have left more room for that exchange than what he did. But wasn't sure if that was Mad Max mode or not. They didn't make a reference to that, but there was a few driving segments that looked a little bit dicey as Elon was traveling on the California freeway.
Right. Well, yeah, this car's been trained to drive on the California freeway. You if you have room, you go. That's just it.
Yeah. And all you need is a sliver of daylight, and you just go. Yeah, that's Mad Max mode.
Yeah,
but
the internet was also exploding of, oh my God, he didn't have his hands on the wheel. How can he do that? It says right there to keep your hands on the wheel, and he didn't do it. He's telling he's training people the wrong way, and it's. But
and
the camera, right?
In Elon's defense too, is like he's been with autopilot since its inception. And he probably was using it when there were no nanny tools to keep people's hands on the wheels at all. Like he was, I am sure he is quite aware as to what the car is doing and when it's doing. And if it's reacting the way that he believes it should be, I'm sure he would put his hands on the wheel if he felt that was not the case.
Right. I'm sure he's comfortable with it. And so if he turned on autopilot and he has his hands on the wheel and she says, are we in autopilot now? And he says, yes. Well, okay, but how do you really know? So when you're demoing it to somebody like that, letting go of the wheel is a great way to let them see that the car is driving itself.
Or scare the bejesus out of them, one or the other.
Also fun, yes. But like you said, as long as he's paying attention and ready to grab it as need be, then I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, so that was another bit of a small controversy that happened from the 60 Minutes interview. Next, we had a story from Teslarati, who had published, I guess it was a comment or an update from an analyst who was looking from the outside after the Model 3 ramp had begun to take hold. This new street research team, Pierre Fergo, had indicated that Tesla made a whole bunch of mistakes and had a whole bunch of stumbles through the ramp. But regardless of it all, they still, at the end, have produced a world-class car, they believe. So again, and we saw this through the ramp up, that they weren't making the numbers they were supposed to, that they were swapping automation for humans. They were playing with all different types of supply management, trying to get the right things in place. They ended up building another line underneath a tent or a sprung structure. So we from the outside saw a lot of this as well, but this investor was indicating that, yeah, they stubbed their toe a number of times, but outside of that, they learned from all of it. And eventually they came out with a world-class Model 3, they believe, that certainly is starting to with sales figures, it's starting to overtake the market in a number of different ways. So again, as long as you can learn from your mistakes, you have the ability still to reap the rewards if you've got time on your side.
Yes, and this is radically different from the way that Ford or GM or Toyota would do things, where they're going to have a solid plan ahead of time. They're going to have prototypes built. They're going to do limited production runs, and they're going to take all those cars and tear them apart and do a whole lot more before they say, okay, we're going to start making them and selling them.
Right.
And Tesla does things more of the Silicon Valley way, where it's fast iteration, learn from your mistakes, make changes on the fly. As soon as you find an improvement, roll it out. And it's a very different mindset. It's a very different company. And
like you said, the speed is completely different. And they're doing that because that's what they've come from, right? Being a small, nimble company, they were able to do those things. They had to do those things in order to survive. And as they pushed out the Model 3 into numbers that they've never obtained in the past, they used any trick up their sleeve to speed the process because they knew they would stub their toe a few times along the way.
Right. Yeah. And the whole Tesla gets a lot of media attention. So any one of these missteps is getting a lot of reporting. And you had a big list of them there where they had ambitious goals and didn't exactly know how they were going to get there, but they found a way.
Right. Right. Next, we talked about this somewhat last week about the Boring Company tunnel opening. Was supposed to happen December 11th, yesterday. But partway through last week, we got an update from Elon indicating that the opening was going to be delayed another week. So December 18th is now the opening of the tunnel. You haven't missed it. If you're in the Hawthorne area and have a good French accent and would like to perform on the Tesla tower that they're building out of boring bricks, there may be still a space for you. But that's going to be a fun event to watch. Certainly to see what they come up with in light of the Monty Python, I guess, theme that they're following. But should be some public rides in the underground tunnel. They also indicate that not only is the tunnel going to be opening, but they're going to have something about the sled there, the electric sled that would hold either people inside of like a structure, or possibly the sled will be for Tesla to sit on top of. Not sure what it is, but they did indicate that there would be something to do with the electric sled that they promised with the tunnel system.
Yeah, the Boring People Pod.
The Boring People Pod. That's a great one. You want to be a marketer, Patrick. That would work out well. Drive the Boring People Mover for Tesla.
Yeah, so that's why they delayed it, is so they could have these things there. And I think that makes it a far more interesting event than just, here's a hole in the ground. Come party in the tunnel.
Don't fall in. They also said that the scissor lift elevator for the garage would be operational as well. So that at the, what did they call it? The O'Leary Station, which used to be a house, but now is just basically a big hole in the ground with a scissor lift in it, that they're lowering cars from the surface to get them into the tunnel. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out well. So we're under a week away. We'll be able to see what that looks like shortly.
Yeah, and now maybe Russell will be able to attend because
see if he has some time now that it's been delayed a week.
We can send him out on assignment again.
Yeah,
that seems to be what he does for us.
he's on assignment all the time. Russell's just the man on the street. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Speaking of things that got delayed a week, we should also mention that the referral program got pushed out another week.
That's
right.
It
was scheduled to end. Was it a couple days ago, and it got moved out, I think, to the 17th. Do you have the more recent date?
I just heard a week, so I wasn't sure on the actual end date. I just heard a week, and that, of course, I was wondering why wouldn't they push it to the end of the quarter, and not just a week.
Yeah, probably because they can't really deliver a car at the last. If you order on the last day, you're not gonna get it anyway.
That's true. But I've also been hearing that they've even fired up a waiting list that if you can be on it if you're in a market that has some extra cars, or if someone cancels the pickup of the car, they can reach out to people on the waiting list and ask them if they would like the car that's just been passed on. So there are a few things that are going on again to push that last quarter. And here we are. We're in the third quarter press again. I'm sorry, not third quarter. We're in the third month press of a quarter. So we've got all sorts of all hands on deck stories coming out of people trying to push these cars as hard as they can, get as many into people's hands before the end of the quarter. And of course, this is the big quarter for the U.S. This is the end of the full credit. It will be cut in half after the end of the year. So I am sure there's a ton of people trying to get the cars in their hands while they can still get that full federal credit while it's available.
Yeah, when I saw the story about this, it was titled Tesla opens cancellation wait list. And I'm like, what? Why would you need to get on a wait list to cancel? I'm so confused. But it worked.
There's that many people. Yeah, exactly.
So you're on a wait list to get a car if someone doesn't take delivery. Or if you haven't. So one of the things that Tesla now offers is that when you get your car, if you haven't had the opportunity to test drive it, you can bring it back within 3 days and walk away and not have any penalty or fee or whatever. So that then becomes a car that if you're on this wait list, boom, you pick it up the next day and you get a car this month, get it the full tax credit. So that's one way to do it.
Absolutely. So if you've got that option and you're sitting on the fence, that might be a quick way for you to get in line and grab a car. So
and use Mark's referral code when you do it.
Exactly. If you want my referral code, just send us a note. We'll be happy to send it out to you direct. And we would certainly appreciate that if you were able to do so. Next story is a little story from the Detroit News. A Henry Payne, who does work for the Detroit News, recently appeared on a show called Autoline, which we've talked about that show previously. It is a show done in Detroit about the automotive industry. They've had a Tesla on that show previously before they stripped it down. There was the Monroe and Associates that took a Model 3 and stripped it down and made all sorts of reports about it. Some reports at the beginning weren't very complimentary, and then by the end they loved the car. So this person, Henry Payne, who is a self-professed gearhead, someone that drives race cars all the time, has a few in his possession. He decided to get himself a Model 3, long-range battery, rear-wheel drive. Surprised he didn't get the performance, but he did not. And he brought it on the show, and they debated about the car for a good part of the show, about half of it. And Henry, who said, listen, I'm not a green guy. I got the car because of its performance, its abilities, its agility, its handling. He absolutely loves the car and talked about it in great length. A few jokes were made at the expense of Tesla, obviously, but Henry seems sincere that he loves the car, and for the price point it's in, he feels it's on par, if not better, than the other cars in the same segment that he passed on purchasing in order to get the Tesla Model 3. So I watched it, the interview, and I thought it was very good. I thought that Henry was definitely sincere about his experiences with the Model 3, and I think this is just another marker where people, if they give the car a chance, they try it, they test drive it, it can convert people just on its own merit. Not being an electric car, but how it performs and how it operates is all people need to know, that this car is something that would fit into their lives and give them, great pleasure in driving.
Yeah, I've written about that exact same topic, that electric cars have this green aspect that brings a lot of people to them, but it's not going to bring the masses. There's only going to be a few people that are willing to come for that. But what's really going to make them go mainstream is exactly what you said. They are better cars. They're smoother, they're quieter, they have better acceleration. That's what's going to make them win. If you start looking, a lot of those for performance or for smooth rides or quiet rides, those are all things that you pay premiums for today. Well, those are all things that just kind of come for free with an electric car. And right now, electric cars have this premium because they're new technology. They're just now getting into where they're mass produced and in high volumes where you get the economies of scale that's going to allow the prices to come down. So 5 years from now, they're gonna be huge.
Exactly. Huge, he says.
Huge.
Next, Gigafactory 1 recently opened up to the media. We had a number of different reporters, papers, internet blogs that were invited. Not us. We didn't get our invitation, Patrick. I don't know why.
I did not either.
Like, I was expecting one once I started to hear of all the different groups that were being let in. But in Nevada, they had opened the doors to a number of different reporting groups, and it was interesting to see the number of different reports and, of course, filming snippets that were added to these. But basically, they were allowed in with a good amount of access to the regular part of the plant that was assembling battery packs. But there was a few groups that were commenting that the Panasonic side of things was really locked down. They weren't allowed to go into that area much at all. What they got to see were the I guess packs of batteries that were coming out and then being assembled into Model 3 drivetrains that they were putting together and then shipping out the door for Fremont to do the final assembly of the rest of the car. So it was interesting. There was at least 6 different reports that I saw from different groups that all had their own film crews in there and were doing snippets of what they had found. Even local groups like the local Nevada papers. What is it? Reno Journal or Reno Gazette was in there doing their own story as well. So it was from large groups to small groups. All were given access recently this past week to Gigafactory 1.
Yeah, well, Tesla might have open sourced all their patents, but Panasonic has not done that. So in this case, they want to keep their secret sauce secret.
Absolutely. I've never heard the CFO or the CEO of Panasonic say my patents are open source. No,
right.
That is not happening. Absolutely. Next story, Patrick, you're gonna have some interest in this. Is remember the alleged saboteur, Martin Tripp,
or self-proclaimed whistleblower, as he said. Yeah.
He was back in the news this week as Tesla has countersued him for a whopping $167 million suit. I don't know if Martin Tripp has that kind of money backing him up. I think he's going to need a heck of a GoFundMe page to pay up that type of a fine.
Crowdfunding going. I don't think it's at that level yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite reached 5 million as opposed to 167 million if he does lose this case. But it's interesting. On our Twitter feed, we reported this, and that is, of course, at the Tesla Life. If you would like to join, please do, and see news throughout the week. But during the week, we got a number of comments back to the story on Twitter. People saying, "This guy doesn't have that kind of money. Is Tesla mad? What are they trying to do here? They'll never get that kind of money out of this guy." And it's certainly
they actually want that kind of money from him.
Right. What do you think they're after with this, Patrick? What's the underlying story? Do you believe?
Yeah. So who started the lawsuits with each other? Because he sued Tesla for $1 million. But I don't know. they're both just being so petty about this. It's kind of a ridiculous story. And the way they got to this 167 million was after the Lynette Lopez story came out, where he was the source. That's how much their market cap dropped. And that's not actual damages, unless you were, had some convertible bonds that came due that day, and then it wouldn't be the entire market cap change. It would be that portion of it. And even that's unlikely that it actually happened. So a blip in the stock is not the basis for damages. And when we had the previous Tesla lawsuit we talked about on here with Nikola Motors, they based theirs off of how much the stock went up after they announced the semi truck. So again, that was a ridiculous basis for their damages, was how much the stock fluctuated on a day, which it will do. We've talked about how volatile the stock is. It moves for lots of reasons, and most of those are short term and irrelevant.
Yeah, I would agree that this is just kind of a back and forth, maybe just for Tesla to throw its weight around, maybe prevent others from even thinking of getting into this type of arena, because they know that Tesla may throw their full weight behind it with some ridiculous amounts. I don't know. I don't know why the amount was that high. Obviously, I don't believe they're going to get that type of settlement, but again, that's what they put out this week. So
Tesla has a lot of lawyers, and they are not afraid to use them. How many states have they had to go up against just to be able to sell their cars there?
Exactly.
So, yeah, they are not. When they hired Fisker to design the Model S, that turned into a lawsuit. When Martin Eberhard left the company and Musk called himself the founder, that turned into a lawsuit. So they are a litigious company. Yeah, they don't wear kid gloves.
Absolutely. Next on the list, we've got, here's a nice little tidbit that we found out from outside of Tesla, which is where you get the really nice tidbits of information. A Belgium port company, a group that handles the offloading of vehicles from ships that come into port for Europe, has indicated that they're getting their employees ready to start receiving 3,000 Tesla Model 3s per week starting in February of 2019. So this port company, that's their job. They're unloading cars for Tesla currently. They've been telling their employees to get ready, that their volume is going to increase exponentially from what it has been with the S and the X, when 3,000 vehicles per week start arriving at their particular port. So great news for the people in Europe, that you're not going to get a dribble of cars. It looks like you're going to start getting a serious amount of cars right away off the first delivery. 3,000 a week is quite an amount to start receiving.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do that, because Tesla tends to ship things that have to have a long journey at the beginning of the quarter, and then at the end of the quarter, they sell things locally so they can maximize how much they have within that quarter. And so if they start dedicating like the first part of the quarter to Europe and then the second half of the quarter to North America, who knows how they'll do it, but it'll be interesting to see.
Because if Tesla is still achieving over 5,000 a week total production, you're right. How are they going to divide that up? Like, as you mentioned, I think, Patrick, last week, as the federal credit drops away, this could be the opening to push Europe further and faster, because they may have more demand, people buying the high-end cars, which is what's available when they will start in Europe. And of course, the North American may drop off a little bit because the federal credit has dropped in half. So it's a balancing act that Tesla is obviously calculated into. And I guess the experiment starts in full January 1st.
Right.
Yeah. So that's about it for the news this week. I did have one further thing, though. One last thing, if it would be possible. We've got a note from our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life. We had a upload to it of the new charging port in Europe with a dual head system.
Right. So that's CCS Type 2, I think.
And the regular plug as well.
Right. So, yeah, that's why it's the CCS2. It's CCS1 in the US and then CCS2 in Europe.
Right. So this Tesla community...
there's 2 cables on there.
That's right. It's a dual cable system.
Wow.
So you've got looks like the original up top, and then the new CCS combo below. So, and they both plug into the same place, and they just attach in 2 different spots here on the left-hand side. But and this one's a little bit blurry, but you can definitely see the combo. Actually, it does look like this one goes on top, since the original plug looks like it's already there. So this is what Europeans are going to have access to, I would believe, out of the gate. They would have to. I would think that any cars that are being shipped over there, other than maybe the demonstration models, although we have seen some demonstration models with the new CCS plug, but it's I guess it's starting to come through on the superchargers over there as well.
Yeah, so I guess they have to have both of those, because the cars the S's and X's that are already over there are not CCS2.
That's right.
So they don't have the DC capability. Interesting.
Yeah. So that little tidbit did come in from one of our Twitter followers, and I forgot the name. So you know what? I'm just going to see if I can grab it right here now. I know it's unprofessional, but
just hover over the image and it'll show the text of it, and then you can.
It was forwarded from this group, but it was not the same person that made me aware that it was out there.
Spies.
Exactly. What country would you think that would be?
My guess is German, but I have no idea.
I believe it was Blank Space that let me know about it. So we certainly appreciate the heads up. Blank
although
Space.
That does say in the Netherlands, doesn't it? So maybe it's.
Yeah, that looks like a Netherlands. So we're not completely sure, but it is in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Patrick, anything you'd like to add as we close off here tonight?
I will give a couple of shout outs.
Great.
So your video driving around in the snow was picked up by Inside EVs.
That's right. That's right.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Did they talk to you at all directly about that, or did they just?
Of course not. There was no consultation on that. None at all.
You put it out there.
I was just happened to search the blogs, and I come across my photo, and I'm going, that looks like mine. Oh my gosh, it is mine.
Oh, cool. Shout out to Inside EVs. And then that Inside EV story was picked up by Tesla Tidbits, a semi-daily podcast that I listen to. So that was cool that you were covered on Tesla Tidbits and Inside EVs.
Two spots.
Yeah.
Very good. 2 for the price of 1. And Patrick, what group do you belong to that people can read your writings through the week?
Occasionally write at carswithcords.net, and I'm also with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find them at oeva.org, and we are on the socials.
Very good. Very good. Well, I would like to thank everyone that's joined us today and is listening or watching to us after the fact. If you have not already, please press the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Give us an extra viewer. The numbers really help us out, and we would greatly appreciate that. Through the week, please feel free to follow us on our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life and on our Facebook feed, The Tesla Life #1. And you can follow the news throughout the week as we get it and post it And we're happy to communicate to you in that way as well. Other than that, we wish everyone a great week. And what we'll do is we will hopefully see everybody next week. So thanks again, everyone. Appreciate you chat room. We'll look for titles in the chat room after the fact, but thanks for being there. So until we talk again and see what's going on in the Tesla life next time.
Stay charged.
Good. Exactly.
To 90%, apparently.
Oh, my goodness. Good night, everybody. Have a good week.